Hello and welcome for the love of food. It is the month of May. Can you believe it? Here we are. I was out the store the other day and I found these really cool, look at, I'm going to bring these up here and show you. These really cool, fun little, I don't know, little plates and napkins for Cinco de Mayo. We're going to celebrate here at my house. Now, what is the best way to celebrate? Well, I always think make something that you've never made before. So I'm going to take a stab at empanadas. These are the coolest little empanada like molds, and you can do them all different sizes. And then I also have this cool rolling pin where you can roll out your dough to make the empanadas. So I can do one of two things. I can roll out my dough, start from scratch, or I can put a cheat in here that will be a lot easier for us all to do, which is to go ahead and just buy the pastry dough. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going to show you today how to make these empanadas and to do it with a basic pastry dough, the pie shells. You buy these in the refrigerator section of your grocer. Okay, so we're going to be making a filling. We're going to go ahead and put them inside the molds, make the empanadas. But we're not going to stop there. How many of you have this fun little device? This is an air fryer. Now, it doesn't have to be this air fryer. It can be any air fryer. So once we've made our empanadas, we're going to go ahead and drop them right in to the air fryer and test that out too. So doesn't it sound like it's going to be a fun way to celebrate Cinco de Mayo? I, of course, am doing this ahead of time so that you might try it on May 5th. All right, so I'll be back in just a few minutes to show you how we're going to make the mix for our empanadas, and we'll show you the dough and all the other fun stuff. The first step is to put your olive oil in the pan and to work these onions by sweating them out until they start to become translucent. Can you see that? They're starting to get like a little sheen on them. And once they're at that point, you can go ahead and add in your garlic. Now, when we put the garlic in, we only want it to go for about a minute to make it fragrant. And then we'll add our beef. So we'll be back in a second to show you that. So here, we've added in our garlic, and we're just letting this cook. As I always say, I wish we had smell-o-vision, because onions and garlic, I think, is some of the best smelling stuff in the world. I'm just going to swirl it around in the pan, make sure my garlic is starting to get that nice fragrance. And then once I'm convinced, and my nose tells me it's ready, you never want to overcook garlic, because what will happen if you burn it, it will become bitter. And we'll go ahead and we'll add in our ground beef. And give that just another stir. Let it go for another minute or so. We don't want to make that garlic brown, as I said before. All right, my nose is telling me the garlic is starting to release its aromas. And now I can push everything off to the sides. Notice how I do that. And I'm going to put my ground beef right in the center of this pan. The reason I'm doing that is because that is the hottest place in the pan. All right, we'll be back in just a minute to show you how that looks after we've cooked it up, and we'll be adding in our spices. As you can see, we've cooked our hamburger meat in with our onions and our garlic, and our next step is to add in our spices. So here we have our fresh oregano that we used. We have our cumin and our paprika. So let's just go ahead and drop that all right in the pan. I'm going to make sure I get all of it, or as much of it as I can, in there. Here we go. Look how pretty that looks, huh? We're going to have to stop to take a photo of that. All right, let's mix that all in. And our next step here, after that just tells me, my nose tells me that this is cooked properly, that the spices are releasing their flavors like I want them to do, we will add in the tomatoes, the tomato paste, and the jalapeno. And then our beef mixture can just cook down like we want it to. Now, empanadas don't have to just be beef, right? You could do all kinds of flavors in your empanadas, but today we're just focusing on the beef ones because that's what we had on hand was some ground beef. Of course, we're in COVID times, so I was able to source some grass-fed beef, so I was like, that sounds like it would be really nice in this dish. All right, we'll be back in just a moment when we've added in our tomato paste. So I add in all my tomato paste first. I don't know why, but that's just the way that I was taught. I think it velvets the meat a little bit, kind of like how you would do with flour. Then we're going to go ahead and put in our tomatoes. And remember, I did fresh tomatoes, but you could also use canned. Either one would be fine. I just happen to have some tomatoes on hand because, again, that's what the farmer's market had. In my farmer's box, we had tomatoes. So why not use the fresh where we can? And last but not least, in this beef mixture, we're going to go ahead and add in our jalapenos. All right, so we have about half a cup of jalapenos. We're going to dump that in here too, along with our tomatoes and our beef. Now we're just going to let this all kind of come together and kind of mix together. Let those tomatoes kind of give up their juices, and then we will have our filling just about prepared. Now these are beef and cheese, so we will be mixing it with some cheese in a little bit when we get ready to make the empanada portion of this. So you can see, here's our beef mixture with our tomatoes. We've let it cool for just a little bit. Now what we need to do is add in our cheese. So we're just going to dump in all of that cheese, and we're going to mix it around. My beef is warm, not cold, but not hot enough to melt all the cheese, but just good enough that it'll incorporate well. We want these to be nice and cheesy since we're not making a special cheese sauce to go on the outside. And we're going to just make sure that we've incorporated it all so that we don't have any cheese that's lagging about. We want to get every little bit. We don't want to waste anything, right? All right, so now that we have all of that incorporated, what's our next steps? Well, we've got to work with this dough, right? We've prepared a board here, a cutting board with some flour, not too much. And remember, we're going to be using the pre-made dough, but if you wanted, you could go ahead and make your own. But I did not want to take that extra step, and I'm thinking a lot of people probably wouldn't unless you're somebody who likes to make a lot of pastry and you just have that kind of on hand. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this dough and I'm going to make sure that it's the right thickness for what I want, because it may work out that it's fine to work with. And look, it's okay if you crack your dough, you can just kind of put it back together. I probably should have taken it out of the fridge a few moments ago. I was afraid that if I did, it would get too soft. But we'll give that just another moment so it can heal and it can soften up a bit. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to just roll it out to, I'm going to use the measurement for 1/6. These little rolling pins allow you to measure. I'm going to use the 1/6 measure. Now, a lot of recipes say 1/8. Mine just didn't happen to have a 1/8 ring. So I'm figuring 1/6 is as close as it's going to get to 1/8. I'm not too worried about this dough splitting, and the reason is that I can reshape it, reform it, do whatever I need to do. Again, it's just pre-made dough. I can smush that down. I can do all kinds of stuff with it, so don't be afraid to work with it. I think for the first couple that we make, we should try the small empanada, not the very large one. So I'm going to start with the little white one and see what happens there. I'm going to go ahead and just make sure my dough is rolled out the way I want it. See how those edges, it didn't really matter. that they were cracked? Because we got it right here, right? We're just going to roll this out. And make sure we got what we were looking for. Nice, even. Missed that one up a little bit. I am not a baker, people. You know this about me. All right. So, what we're going to do is we're going to take our little empanada mold, and notice when I hold it open, it forms a complete circle, right? So this is the side that's got the, and I don't know if you can see it real good because it's white. That's the side that makes the ridges, and this is the side that makes the circle. So we're going to take the side that makes the circle, and we're going to just press down and twist. There's our first circle for our empanada. We're going to set that aside. Let's go ahead and make another one. And again, we want to get as close to the other circle without going over as possible. Let's see how I do there. I am challenged sometimes. There we go. There's another one. And do another one. We're just going to make our little circles for our empanadas. See if I can, might have to re-roll this. That's why I said it doesn't matter. You can just reform it. Push it down. I'll put my little circles aside for a minute. And now we can roll this out to the thickness that we want. Quarter turn. I was trying to get 2 out of that one, but I don't think I'm going to be able to. I'm going to have to roll it again. But that's okay. There's another circle. Let's try one more. Probably put a little flour on my rolling pins. It's sticking a little bit. That's why ideally this is better if you have a big surface to work on. If you're somebody who bakes and you know what I'm talking about, you already have that surface, don't you? I suppose I could have done it directly on my counter. But somehow that doesn't seem as sanitary to me. I know it is, but if you had a clean counter, it's clean, but it just bugs me sometimes. All right, so now you can see we have our circles. We have 6 of them made. All right, so we've got our 6 circles. They're not all asymmetrical. They're not all perfect. Some of them are rolled a little thinner than the others. That's okay. We're going to give this a shot and see how this turns out. That is the fun of making all kinds of things that you've never made before, right? You're able to just work with things and play with them. So what I'm going to want to do is I'm still going to want to work with my mold, because remember, I want to put the circle inside. And we'll start with one of the thicker ones. One of my last ones that I rolled out and did. What I want to do is I want to press that onto the mold. See how it's already forming that beautiful shape? So I'm not going to have to do that. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my brush and just put a little bit of water right there. I'm going to put just a little water so that my ends fold in very nicely. All right, I'm going to be able to put my filling right inside here. We don't want to put a lot of filling, so we're only going to want to put about these little ones, maybe about a teaspoon to a tablespoon. I don't want to overfill them, because if I do, they're going to burst open and they're not going to be as good. So I can then take and fold my filling right in half. It looks like those funny little dentures that people used to play with when we were kids. And what I want you to see that the dough kind of comes out the side, just a little tiny bit there. All right, and then we can pull it back. We're going to to pull it back slowly. And there we have, I'm going to take them out gently. And there we have our first pretty little empanada. All right, let's try that again and see if we can't. I'm thinking maybe if I put the water here, it might come out just the edge of that. Let's try that. Put the dough in. Just press it down just lightly, gently. Let's put some of this filling in. And not too much, about a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half. Fold it over, press it in, release, and then voila, we have another pretty little empanada. I think that worked a little bit better, just putting the water on the edge of that. So I would recommend that. So see, we're learning as we go. So the next one, this was a little bit of a thinner shell. So let's see how this one worked out, because I rolled this one a little too much, but does it mean you have to throw it away and start all over again? I don't think so. So let's just give it a try and see what happens. Let's put in our filling. I'll put a little less filling in this one just to be on the safe side because it's a little thinner. I'm going to fold to my edges, do what they need to do. And then I'm going to gently pop it open. I can see what happened there. It stuck a little bit. So the thinner ones, you see why it makes it a little bit more precarious to work with. But I can just pinch those in, pinch those ends in. What we don't want to have happen is when we're cooking them, we don't want the filling to fall out. That's the most important thing, right? We want them to be pretty, but we don't want the filling to fall out. So if I was an experienced empanada maker, I could do these really pretty with my fingers. I don't know if you've ever seen anybody do that. It's quite remarkable. But again, this is my first time ever making them, so I'll give myself some slack. Got myself some slack here. Now here was a broken one. Let's see what happens with my broken one. It was also broken and thin. So I'm going to just fold over that broken area. Yeah, it's broken and thin. So I don't have a lot of high hopes for this one, but we'll give it a try and see what happens, right? We're going to put it in. Press it down. I'm going to put a little bit of the water on the outside of this one, only because I think it's going to need it. I think it's going to need that water. All right, let's, again, only put a little bit of filling in this one. See, isn't this fun? I think this is something that you could do with your kids on Cinco de Mayo and make it feel festive. And they could see that they can create things. And maybe you could use it as one of their school lessons. Maybe you could talk with them about Hispanic cultures. And, you know, look at that one came out just fine. That was the broken one, remember? Oh, I see a little bit of dough coming through there. A little bit of filling coming through there. I'm going to pinch it. That's why you want to do them to 1/8 and not small. Well, I could go to, what did I do? Let's see. 1/6, I said. You don't want to go any smaller, any thinner than 1/6 with the filling. So let's go ahead and make a couple more. We've got 2 more to go here. Now I have a lot more filling. I'm not going to bore you with what I'm doing, right? Because now that you kind of get the hang of it, you're good. You know how to move forward and do this yourself. But what I do want to do is show you how I'm going to air fry them so we can figure out if the technique is worth it. All right, so I want to show you what happens if you overfill. I overfilled and it split and it got some of the filling up here. It's starting to get messy. So we don't want that to happen. We want everything to stay inside the pocket. So don't overfill or you're going to be unhappy. Now the other thing is my hands are getting a little dirty. My mechanism, my mold here is getting a little bit dirty with some of the food that I'm working with. So I guess part of this will be lessons learned. Try and keep things as neat as possible and don't overfill. All right, so I don't think I overfilled there. I'm gonna put that in again. So I'm excited again. This one came out beautiful. Look at that, it's beautiful. All right, I'm going to go ahead and put my meat aside in the refrigerator for a little bit until I'm ready to make the rest of mine. But I want to move on to the air fryer portion and show you how to air fry these. All right, we'll be back in just a moment. Thanks for watching For the Love of Food. So before I put these in the air fryer, which by the way, I have lined with parchment paper, there's one thing I want to do. I want to put a little egg wash on the top of my empanadas. So let me just get the empanadas so you can see what I'm doing here. Remember, I laid them out on a tray. I just want to put a little egg wash on them. See, I want to make them a nice pretty color, and that's what that will do supposedly, right? Again, we're trying this for the first time. You're seeing us do it for the first time, just like you would be doing it. And that's kind of the fun of it, isn't it? Like, how will my empanadas turn out? And I like to do it this way because if I mess up, you'll see it, you'll know. You'll be like, oh, okay, I guess if Jan can make a mistake, I can make a mistake too. And I want you to note that that one pie crust that we bought from the store only made 6 empanadas, right? 6 little ones. So there's something to be said about making your own dough because it's very inexpensive to make your dough, just a little more time consuming. So the other thought is that, well, what am I going to do with all that meat and all that empanadas? There's only 2 of us. You can freeze these. So you can take these and put them on a tray like this, drop them into your freezer, and then individually take them off the tray when they're frozen and put them in the freezer in one bag and just pull them out as you need them. So that's another thing that you can do. All right, so let's talk about the air fryer for a minute. For any of you who don't already have the Instapot air fryer, and I am not making an advertisement for them, just want to tell you how much I really like this thing. I didn't want to have an extra contraption around the house. I've got lots of them, as you can well imagine. So I decided to just buy the lid that goes on this particular model of Instapot. And it just kind of sets on the top. It's a little bit interesting how it all comes together. It just, and I have it turned around backwards. So I'm going to point it towards me so that I can see the front of it and put the lid on properly. All right. So the thing that's interesting about this is that the lid has its own cord, and you never plug in both attachments. You just plug in the top half, just the air fryer. It comes with this safety kind of hot plate where you put the lid. Don't ever put the lid directly on your countertop. You will wreck your counter if you do. You may break your marble or your whatever your countertop is, my granite. So I want to say always use this part. What I like about the Instapot is that I can tell it what temp, I can tell it how long. So I'm going to say air fry. I'm going to put the temp at 400, and we are going to put these on for 10 minutes. Now I'm going to preheat. So I'm going to say start. The machine's starting to heat up, and it will let me know when it's up to temperature. So I can go ahead and when it is, I will place, we'll start with 2 empanadas right on that parchment paper inside, and then we will let them cook for approximately 10 minutes. We'll see how they look. We'll stop and we'll check them along the way. So while that's coming up to temp, we will wait, and I'll be back to show you what they look like once they're inside. So we've been air frying for 4 minutes now. And one of the things that I do like about the Instapot is that it will tell me that it's halfway done and it's time to flip whatever you have inside of it. So in about less than a minute it's going to be, and we're going to be able to flip those over, and then we'll show you our finished product when it's done. All right, y'all, so when I checked, the empanadas halfway through, and I went to flip them. I don't know, they kind of didn't stay as pretty as they were before, so we're letting them finish. I'll take them out. But behind me, I've started a pan of oil, and I'm going to fry the last 3. So we did an air fry and a regular fry, and we'll see which way we like it. Be back in just a second. All right, so I'm going to show you down in the pot what they look like. If I can bend this just a little bit more so you can get a good idea. This is really hot, so I want to show you how they look in the air fryer. And see my little baby that fell apart? Oh, that's so sad. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take them out, I'm going to plate them, and I'm going to fry a couple in the frying pan, and we'll see how those turn out, and we'll show you those as well. All right, we'll be back. All right, y'all, you ready to see the results? This is our air fry empanada. This is our pan fried empanada. So side by side comparison, you can see the difference. The pan fried got much crispier, much darker than the air fried one. Could I have left the air fried one in a little longer? Possibly. But here's what I'm going to say. If you're somebody who absolutely has to watch your intake of fats, then by all means do the air fry method. You might have to do them one at a time. If you're somebody who's okay with having a little fat in your diet occasionally, then by all means do the pan fry method. It was the more authentic method, and to me it was better. Now you can also bake these. My husband has made these in the past where he baked them and they were good. But the pan fry, I bet you, is way better. All right, thanks for watching Empanadas. Happy Cinco de Mayo.